Some people come to realization that something's bigger than them, higher than them, more than them, something that is helpful to them, that can change them. Like you will turn the little knob on the side, and the shades slowly begin to open up and the light comes through, right?
Mm-hmm.
For other people, it happens when you yank on the cord, you yank on it and the shades all the way fly up and the light just floods in, right? For some people, it's the flooding in of light, of recognition, of awareness. For other people, most people really, it's that slowly turning of the shades upward and light kind of begins to shine in and see where there's some dark areas, some things that need to change.
Dr. John Page, welcome to the Entrepreneur Next Door. Thank you so much for doing this. This show is about entrepreneurship, leaping into the unknown, taking risks, going on a roller coaster ride of anxiety, depression, joy, trepidations. And there's one thing that separates success from failure is resilience and grit. But it's easier said than done. So
yes,
I give you Dr. Page. It's been working with 25 years, 1,100 people that you've coached. And when I try to pin or define you in one sentence, the one I picked was, I work with people when I integrate a deeper purpose into their work. Now,
yeah, that's a good summary.
And the deeper purpose, as I haven't introduced you yet, I'm going to let you do that in a second. The deeper purpose is let's call it a higher calling, and they'll understand it very quickly. But for me, as a business guy, as a marketing guy, as an entrepreneur, somebody who's a business coach, worked with many entrepreneurs, I always said to my MBA students, and when I talk to people contemplating entrepreneurship, if you want to do this to make money, don't bother. But if you have a higher purpose, start a business. Go for it. It'll work out. So, Dr. John Page, please introduce yourself.
I'm glad to be here with you, Zev. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me and ask me some interesting questions. I was a former minister for 20 plus years, and now I'm into guiding and advising people. I meet them where they are, and if that's a really spiritual thing, that's fine. If it's more about just basic meaning and purpose, I meet them there as well. And together we find out what is their meaning, what is their purpose in their business, their life, relationships, but mainly how they can be the truest form of who they are, the best version of themselves in their business, because that's where they spend the most of their life, most of their time is in their business, a small business, entrepreneur, solopreneur. And if they can get their purpose, their meaning straight, grounded in who they are, then it will affect and live through everything they do.
And it's beautifully said, and that applies, even though the show is about entrepreneurs, what you just said applies to employees as well as the business owner, right? It doesn't matter. Where it's the most impactful is if you're a leader and own a business, whether you're by yourself and you're your own employee. So when you brush your teeth at night, you look in the mirror, that's it.
That's right.
Or you have people working for you. Being grounded and having purpose and knowing who you are is absolutely critical. Because if you're flailing, the business will flail. And if you're flailing, the employees notice it, despite the fact that some business owner think employees are just the help and they're stupid. They're not. They see everything. We're going to keep this simple and fun and humorous because, and I will include this in my show notes, but I have to tell you, John, and I don't do this because podcasters always, kiss and hug their guests and compliment them, but I say it because I mean it. I always found your content impactful, but also in a way that puts a smile on my face, which we all need it. And you're a funny guy. I want to ask you first. Maybe it's a dumb question. I'm Jewish. You're not. Okay.
Correct. Right.
What the heck is the difference between a minister, a reverend, a pastor, a priest? I'm confused.
A rabbi and a mom, priest, minister, pastor, whatever the title may be, they're people who are giving their lives to help others connect with their understanding of God, right? And their culture of belief, their faith system, their belief system. That's all I ever saw myself was as just someone who I'm going to help you connect with God as we understand it. And that
So,
looks different in different systems and different beliefs. And that's fine. And I think it's all wonderful because in the end, we're disconnecting with God. Personally, it didn't matter to me how we get there.
like for me, because I didn't know what the difference was. I didn't know if it was accreditation. Does a priest have a black belt in religion as opposed to a minister? I don't know. But you said, okay, we're basically all the same. We're I'm going to say preaching the gospel, but we all have the same kind of mission and purpose in connecting
Yeah.
people.
Overall, it's we're going to connect us as people, as humans, with that which is higher than us, that's bigger than us.
Okay.
Um, and a priest does it their way, a pastor does it their way, and a mom does it their way, a rabbi does it their way, and so forth.
Yeah. And by the way, for my loyal listener and subscribers, this is not going to be a podcast about converting you to anything. And when John says connecting with God, if you don't believe in God, that's okay. I think
Yeah.
the message is, but am I being ordained after this? Sounds really good. The message is you ought to believe in something, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's a higher power, whether you call it God, but the fact that the belief kind of anchors you into a purpose impacts the rest of your life. Okay, that's the end of my amateur talk because you're going to do the rest. You
No
got
worries.
you got a BA in communications and PR, so you went into business as an undergrad,
Yes.
and then you bail and get a thing in theology, right? So what
Correct.
happened? What was that decisive moment?
I was working in advertising and marketing, doing a lot of writing, copywriting, that kind of thing. And not to put a super mysterious feel on it, but I just felt led to go to seminary. It wasn't to go into ministry or to be a pastor. I just wanted to study more about theology, learn more about God. And I figured seminary was the place to go do that, right? If I wanted to learn more about the law, I'd go to law school. Same kind of thing.
That guy you didn't.
So I went. I went to seminary, and I remember I was praying, and I told God in my prayer, I said, "Okay, I'm going to go, but I am not going to be a pastor. No way." Well,
Little
we
did you
see how
know.
yeah, we see how that'll ended up 20 years later. But that was the start of it. And as I got into it and learned more, I learned more about myself, and I also learned that I have a skill that I can help people, not just in the way of serving people or helping them with this or that, but helping them in a way, like I said, to hear about God, that which is bigger than them, in a way that's approachable and relatable, and not judgy and point your finger and come down on you for all this stuff, but more in the sense of invitational, of letting that which is bigger than us, and like you said, you want to call it the universe, higher power, whatever. It's all fine by me. It doesn't bother me at all. But there is something bigger. And if we can connect with that, it does give us purpose and meaning because there's something beyond us. I think most of us understand that in some way. There's something bigger than us. There's beyond us. And if we can connect with that in some way, then, well, I think overall we'll be better people because we're moving beyond ourselves and not getting into ourselves so inwardly that we can't be outward with people. That's where the beauty is when we're outward toward other people, however that may look.
So there's a phenomena in this space which I didn't experience personally, but I know people who have, and
Mm,
I'm sure you do, and I'm referring it as the born again thing, right? In quotes,
mm, yeah,
where like as I was growing up, there were some celebrities who were pot smoking, very successful, had lived a life, right?
yeah,
And literally like overnight, boom, something happens, and they, and as Jews, you see them a year later, they're wearing black clothes, giant beard,
yeah.
completely almost unreal. One of them was actually my childhood street friend in Israel. His
Okay.
name was Avi Piamenta. And so it does happen because I know people that happen to and happen in Christianity and other religions. Is there an explanation to that? I mean, do you literally like people wake up and say, Jesus came to me and I'm a changed man? Is that how it happens?
It's happened in some people. I liken it to a window with shades on it. Right? Some people come to realization that something's bigger than them, higher than them, more than them, something that is helpful to them that can change them. Like you will turn the little knob on the side and the shades slowly begin to open up, and the light comes through, right?
Mm-hmm.
For other people, it happens when you yank on the cord, you yank on it, and the shades all the way fly up, and the light just floods in, right? For some people, it's the flooding in of light, of recognition, of awareness. For other people, most people really, it's that slowly turning of the shades upward, and light kind of begins to shine in and see where there's some dark areas, some things that need to change. And so, as you've noted in your life, I've seen it in mine as well. Sometimes that happens overnight, suddenly. I've dealt with a lot of people who are in addiction, right?
Right.
And so they reach the point where it's one day they're this way and the next day they're that way. And it was a cold turkey thing. For others, it takes the 12 steps over years and years and years, right? So it doesn't really matter how it occurs. I just know that it occurs to people. And I think in some way, everybody can have some sort of enlightening moment where they learn something about themselves. They see a past behavior that's not all that helpful. It doesn't help them grow. It doesn't help their relationship with others. And so they decide to change. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic, right? I was just going to bring up the 12 steps, the AA, because again, friend of ours was an alcoholic, went to, and he's super religious. Is this even? Is this the? Am I doing this, Joshua, by saying he's super religious? Should I use the word spiritual? What's the right way to describe it?
Religion, in my mind, is more about what we've created for ourselves, right? The different faith system, belief systems, denominations, all the different churches, synagogues, so forth and so on. Spirituality seems to be a little more subjective, right? We can define spiritual in a whole number of ways that encompasses just about everything, right? Religion is more formed for us, right? You're going to be in this religion or that religion. Or this specific religion in this way, in this form, in this meaning. Spirituality is a little more generalized, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. So I have another kind of maybe stupid general question. So I'm Jewish. I thought we were splintered with all the different sections among Judaism. But then we come to you, there's baptism, there's Methodist, there's Presbyterian, there's Seventh Day. I'm saying it in general just for my side also. Why do we need all that stuff? Like, can we just keep it simple, stupid, right? Like, okay, you're Christian, you're Jewish, that's what you do. Shut the hell up, follow the rules.
Yeah. Boy, that's a great question, Zev. Let's see, how much time do we have left?
Okay, no, all right. So this is not a Sunday sermon.
We'll give it a short summary. A lot of it has to do with just people focusing in on one aspect of the belief. We're going to believe in this way and in this form, and that's going to define us, right? So the different Protestant denominations, we're going to believe about God in this way and in this form with this meaning, and that's going to define us in this way, and we're going to call ourselves Baptists or Methodists or Presbyterians or what have you. And the same thing for Judaism as well, right? You've got Reform and Conservative and Orthodox, right? We're going to believe in our belief system in this way, around this form, and this meaning, in these ways, and that's going to define us. That's how I'd best explain it. Is it needed? I don't know if it's needed, but I think that it's there, and it allows people, again, to connect with God in a way that best suits them, right? It fits them. Much like instead of say we're all going to wear the same kind of clothes, right? You're gonna wear a sweater. I'm going to wear a zip up. You're going to wear a jumpsuit. All of us are going to be clothed, and we're going to feel warmth and so forth. But we're going to be comfortable, and we're going to be able to define ourselves in that way.
Yeah,
not the greatest analogy, but we'll go with it.
Look, I'm okay with all this, except what I'm not okay with is that when the different sects of religion point to conflicting sects and start to demonize them. That
Yeah.
piece is like, okay, so whatever. So this is something that, I've said it a few times, and I'll explain what I mean by when I say it. But when someone says to you, "I'm not religious,"
Hmm.
I don't think you can help me, John, because I'm not religious. But what do you tell them?
I'd say, well, that's fine. I'm not religious either. Religion, like I said, is a preform or a formed identity based on parameters and boundaries and created by humans, right? Spirituality is which most people you'll hear them say, I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. And what they're saying is, I don't fit into one specific identity of expression about God. I do believe in God in some way, shape, or form, and that's who and how I want to connect with that aspect of my life instead of being narrowed into this sect or this denomination or this system or that religion.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting. So one more crazy question because I have you, and I don't get to have someone like you too often. I
not
was
a
at
problem.
an event a couple years ago in New York City, and one of the people that came with me, she brought a boyfriend, and he was a minister. And
Okay.
so we kind of bonded. And I looked at him and I said, I asked him the same question I actually asked rabbis. I think it was maybe it was more than 50. It was just about when the Ukrainian war broke out, right?
Mm,
Any atrocities that were taking place.
yeah.
And I said, I have a question. You're a minister. You're a God's person. What kind of a God allows this to happen, right? When you
Mm,
bomb hospitals with babies, and we can liken it to what happened in Israel and what's going on in
yeah.
Gaza. And I'm fully sympathetic to the Palestinian people as well. I said, what kind of a God is it? If you were controlling stuff, then why you let it happen?
Yeah. That's no. That's a deep and lifelong question that people have been asking since they first understood that there was a God. Right? We turn to God because we want there to be a being that is more than us, that has power that we don't have, that can do things we can't do, right? Which is why a lot of people pray to a God or believe in a God or follow a God. And so when we see such atrocities and just the nastiness, worst of humanity, and we can list on and on and on how that's occurred over time. Sadly, a lot of it because of religion, right? And what we're seeing is doing what they want to do to be their own God, to be in control,
Mm.
right? I'm going to exert this sort of power and intimidation or bullying and nastiness because I can. And it may be, and I don't know what's going on in the minds of people who are truly, truly evil, but it may be, I don't think there's a God at all, so I can do whatever I want. And if we can do whatever we want, we would like to think that we're going to choose the best self. We're going to choose the most positive, but more than likely, if we can do whatever we want and there's nobody to smack us down or keep us in line or that kind of thing, we'll see how much we can get away with.
But then
Right?
we have examples today. Not going to go into name calling, but leaders all around the world who literally get away with it, right? And you kind of
Yeah.
say, well, why does evil win all the time? And somebody would say, well, karma is going to get him one day. And they said, well, if a autocrat guy who murders people eventually at 82 is going to have a seizure and die, you're going to
Hmm.
say it's karma. And I said, yeah, but look at all the damage that was caused. I'll tell you what my friends, the rabbis, and I'm not religious, but
No worries.
I know pretty well a couple of rabbis. When
Yeah.
I asked them the question, as brilliant Jews always say, as in their universe, okay, well, in our religion, there's a concept of, I'll say it in Hebrew, ashgacha mimal and ashgacha pratit, which means the equivalent of divine intervention and then the private responsibility that we have among each other.
Mm-hmm.
And there are things that you can relate to divine intervention. You say, okay, well, that happened because.
Right.
But when it comes to atrocities among human beings, the massacres, the Holocaust, everything that we just talked about, it said that's not a God thing. That's you're giving the freedom to live life. One of the things I liked about the religious part is to this day, and I say, look, the Ten Commandments sort of like your user manual.
Hmm.
Okay, right? You use you
Yeah.
follow that's it. You follow the Ten Commandments. You're gonna be a good person. Okay.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day basis, I said to him, listen, there is a God and there's always these angels, and maybe there's an angel assigned to me, but there's so much crap going on in the universe. I mean, I said, even God, despite whatever computer program he's using to manage his time, impossible, right? You
Yeah.
can't. So you have to sort of agree that, yeah, the concept of we are responsible for our own actions
Hmm.
is part of being humans, and then
It
there's
is.
the divine stuff, which is maybe different. And again, the reason I'm talking about it is because it does relate to entrepreneurship. It does relate to owning a business and being a leader. And as human beings, particularly in business, when something doesn't go well, we tend to point fingers at, okay, so who caused it, right?
Yep.
On a
Exactly.
small scale, the company's not doing well. Everybody's going to point to the sales department and say, oh, they stink. And the
Yeah.
salespeople would say, no, no, it's not us. It's the marketing guys because they're the leads generate are crap, and so we
Yeah.
can't close them. And then the marketing guy would say, no, it's the operations group because they screwed up the shipping department. It's never ending, right? But ultimately, as Zig Ziglar used to say, and most people don't even know who he is, when
Hmm.
you point a finger at someone, there's three fingers pointing back at you,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
So as you were talking, I had what we used to call in the old days a BFO, right? I don't know if you came across this acronym, but you're going to like it. It's called a blind flash of the obvious, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I was thinking as you're talking about the praying to God,
Hmm.
and I was thinking that to me everything's about psychology. I'm obsessed with human behavior, and they said, look, you can believe in a higher being, or maybe you don't, but the act of praying is sort of like a closed loop system, the way we're
Hmm.
wired, where you either say it verbally or you think about it, but it's internal. The God thing can exist, but it's also a reminder that there's a better way, right? That this too shall
Right.
pass, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how am I doing on my being ordained at the end of this? So are you gonna do the two?
I think you're well on your way. You got a good systematic theology going. We've covered the problem of evil. I think you're well on your way, Zev. We're
Okay,
there,
well,
man.
there's hope for me, man. I tell you. So what I wanted to do, and I would encourage everybody, is look. You're an entrepreneur because you're. I happen to think you're a brilliant copywriter. I've seen some of your work.
Thank you.
Even the way you write the posts are just brilliant. So you were an entrepreneur. You were on I want a Fiverr or Upwork as a copywriter.
Yep.
You were in charge of the marketing and the copywriting of your church or your ministry you're part of. But you posted something the other day that it was great, but it really got me cracked up. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's pretty long, but I'm going to read some of it. And I want you to explain. It's always fun for people. I mean, you're a coach, you're a life coach, you're whatever you want to call it, consultant.
Yep.
But we deal with people one on one. I deal with business owners. You deal with probably business owners as well. So you're kind of going through a dialogue that you had with someone, right? And says,
Hmm.
okay, you, as in, I'll be me, right? Are you a shaman? What's up with the spiritual advising? Me, John. Nope, I'm a retired minister, freed from denominational restrictions. Me. So you're not going to throw Bible verses at me to solve my concern. John. Not likely because what you need is for me to listen to you. Me. Is this some trick to convert me or prove your religion to me? John, hell no, I'm not here to rope you into something or convince you or recruit you to a belief system. Me, huh? Okay, that's good to know. What do you do then? John, when we both agree we're a good fit for each other, we'll meet for a session. Me, what happens in the session? You, before we meet for 75 minutes, I invest an hour reading your responses to some questions and preparing for you. People say to me, so after I work with you, is my business going to grow? And I said, I don't know. So then why am I hiring you? And I said, I'll tell you one thing, I'm not a magician. Okay. I don't
Yeah.
have a, I don't
Exactly.
have a wand that's going to, because you're going to pay me all this money, things are going to miraculously improve. They're not. I'm going to guide you and work with you closely to meet your goals and whatever issues we need to address. Right. Same
Yeah.
thing for you in
Exactly.
Same thing for you. What's the Is there a common thread to people that wind up working with you or coming to you for help?
Yeah, I think so. Generally, there's some sort of blockage or there's some sort of discontent in their life. It may be around they're upset with God in some way, or they're having problems in some sort of relationship, whether it's their business relationship with their partner or their
Mm-hmm.
coworker or their boss or their employee, or in their marriage or parent, child, sibling, whatever it may be. And so I try to help pinpoint that with them as to what really is the issue we're talking about. You're telling me it's about this, but what's the story behind the story? Because that's really where the issue is. That's really the concern. And what I try to tell people is, look, I can't want this more than you can. Right? You find it in business advising. I do it in spiritual
Yep.
advising. I can't want this more than you do. And I'm not a magician. I am not a therapist. I'm not a magician. I'm not a wizard. I just listen and tell you what I'm hearing. And to my best guidance and advice, yes, I believe if you kind of work this out in this way and follow along in that way and work on these things, then yes, I think you will have a better relationship with whatever you're dealing with. Or yes, I think you can get some understanding about what you're really feeling about your relationship with God, or whatever it is the concern you brought to me is. But I can't want it more than you do because I can't change you.
Yeah.
If I was a business coach, I cannot make your business successful. It's not my business. It's your business. You have to want it.
It's funny because a
Right.
lot of times, and after I work with somebody and I find myself working overtime because I
Mhm.
care, and there are times where my, and maybe you can help me because I'm going to use a term that I don't really know what it's about, but I know what it means, right? So I'm going to have a come to Jesus meeting, and so
Yeah.
don't forget to explain what that means to me.
Yeah.
Which basically means a heart to heart. We're going to talk about something that's openly and sometimes it's uncomfortable. And I said to my business owner client, it seems that I care more about your business than you do. I
Yeah.
says, why do you say? I said, because we're in this together, but you have to implement some of the things that we discuss. And I'm a hands-on coach, so I actually do implement a lot of things for my clients, but I'm not the owner, right? So there are things that
Right.
frequently starting with the owner. This is where the issue is, right? There's a saying in Hebrew Yiddish, the fish stinks from the head. Yeah, if there's issues in a business, more often than not, in 13 years of coaching, it starts with the owner, the leader. So we
Mm-hmm.
work on that first. But if you don't want it, as in your case, if you're not willing to humble yourself and recognize and then work to improve, I can't do it for you. It's just doesn't work.
Exactly.
So John, tell me what this come to Jesus thing is. I mean, I thought we're having fun conversation, and I have you so I can pick your brain.
Yeah. Come to Jesus meeting. Think of it like in a revivalist sense, in the way of we're going to hit it hard. Where no punches are going to be pulled. We're going to clear out all the BS. We're going to get right down to it, and you're going to be confronted and deal with what the problem is, and you're going to deal with it. I mean, it's a come to Jesus, like Jesus is right in front of you, and you're going to deal with it, right?
So, but does that have any historical perspective? Like, was there a come to Jesus meeting back in the Jesus days?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Scripture, there's a lot of places where Jesus is teaching, and he confronts things head on, right?
Mm.
A belief that was harmful to someone or was dehumanizing to someone, he confronts it directly. Think of a come to Jesus meeting as a confrontation,
Yeah, yeah. It's
right?
usually yeah. We're going to close the door. We're going to turn off our cell phones.
Yeah,
In the military, when I was an officer, it was like the come to Jesus says, "Okay, listen, it's you and me. I'm taking my rank off. It's just us. We're gonna
yeah.
talk.
There you go.
We're gonna talk eyeball to eyeball. I'm human, you're human, but we're gonna clear the air and that's actually a great humble way to address issues, especially between
Yeah,
business owners and employees. If your boss calls you to their office, and I hate that word, I rarely use it, right? When your employer calls you to their office for whatever reason you did something that's not right, there's usually a desk between you and that person,
hmm,
and there's
yep,
automatic tension that's created because you need the job, you need the income. He or she is in a position of authority. Nothing good's going to come out of it, right? So
Yeah, I mean, the power dynamic is off.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so the best way to do it, and the smart entrepreneurs, and I've had the luck to work with some really brilliant people. When that happens, they don't sit at their desk. They usually have a circular desk on the
Hmm.
side, and you move over there. In corporate meetings, in team meetings, I've adapted to that since my early days in the Israeli army. But I've never ever sat at the head of a table ever, because I didn't want to have. I want everybody to feel that I'm equal to them. Yes, somebody needs to be in charge. Okay, get it. But sitting at the head of the table so kind of conditions people to just look at you, carefully watch your body language when they say something, and if you're going to do something that goes that they're gonna show.
Yeah, they are. I mean, some of the better conversations can be had on a park bench where you're side by side and you're looking out at the same view, right? And because you're side by side, I mean, body language wise, you literally are equals. You are next to each other. And sometimes even facing someone, right? You come up from behind the desk, you sit in the chair next to them, and you're kind of next to them, but you're still facing each other. Sometimes that can be intimidating for folks still, because you're having to look right at the person and maintain eye contact. And if you look away, then you're being nervous or you're afraid to answer or whatever, body language thing you read that tells you what that's supposed to be, and it may not be that at all, right?
Yep.
Because people do a lot of things with their bodies that have nothing to do with how they're really feeling. It just may be how they move their bodies around. But side by side, or you know, taking a walk around the shop floor together, whatever it may be. But the more you can show some humility, and that's born out of some curiosity. Let's say I'm the employer and I'm talking with an employee, and they're having trouble meeting production goals or sales targets or whatever it may be. We don't have the whole picture, right? So instead of looking at one metric or one aspect and saying, oh, well, we're going to have to deal with that, we're going to have to deal with you, it views the person as a problem. They're the problem. Well, maybe there's some other stuff going on in their life. Maybe it was a bad week, month. Well, if we're not curious enough to know about the person as a fellow human, not just an employee, then we're going to miss the humility factor to say, I may be in a position of power or title as the business owner, boss, employer, but I don't know it all. I don't have the whole picture. So let me be curious about this person and see what's really going on. Now, maybe they're just lazy and they're quiet quitting and have been for the last 2 months. Or maybe they just got a lot of shit going on in their life and it's weighing on them and it affects their job and their ability to do what they're doing.
Hmm.
Well, if I'm not curious enough, I'm going to miss that. And then that's when harm gets done and things are said that don't need to be said, and it just makes people defensive.
Yeah, you used one word that when I was in graduate school teaching, and even when I work with my clients, I always ask them, what do you think is the number one trait of incredibly successful leaders? And you get a whole bunch of answers, but rarely the right one. And the right one for me, and again, this is from experience of having seen successful and having seen unsuccessful. To me, the answer is successful leaders are humble. They have that humility to recognize that they're a human being. The cheesy part is, you put your pants on the same way I do, you go to the bathroom, whatever. But they do have the humility to recognize that even though they've reached a milestone in their life and they're in a position of, let's say, power,
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't have done it without the people that work there. And
Right.
like you said, he was a guest on my podcast. Is one of the few celebrities that I invited because I follow him and he's amazing. His name is Rich Litvin. He's an incredible executive coach. His saying is, if you think you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
And that's where again, seriously, for 30 years in corporate, 13 years as a coach, being hands-on, sitting in meetings with my clients, watching, observing. This is it. It's humble yourself, okay? You didn't get there by yourself, and the people sitting across the table from you are flawed as much as you. And the only way you can create a successful entrepreneurship is through humility, through collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
through recognizing that everybody makes mistakes. And so let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's improve it. I'm a huge believer in what's called continuous improvements.
Yes.
Uh, for you as a minister, life is continuous improvement, right? We all sin, we all fail, right? You guys have the greatest system in the world, though, because uh, I'm gonna screw up and I'm gonna go to confession and forgive me, John, because I've seen, and you listen and you whatever the 10 Hail Marys, and off I go. I can go start it off again, and then I'll come back next week. I'm being trying to be
Yeah. Yeah.
funny,
Yeah. The hope is that you wouldn't have to come back each week, right?
but they do. So, and sometimes do you have like a punch card that they punch in, and if they get 10 confessionals, you're not coming back for a month. Just like,
Yeah, I thought about that. Churches should have a rewards program, right? If you come 3 Sundays out of the month, you get a special something. But no, but it's right. I mean, if you're gonna be a leader in any form or fashion, then you need to understand you got there because of some other people who helped you learn somehow. I really don't think there's any such thing as a self-made man or a self-made woman.
right.
They may have done a lot on their own. They may have done a lot of work to get where they are, but they still learned something from somebody somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And that humility portion of it is just saying there's still something for me to learn. And really, whether it's a spiritual mindset or perspective, or a business mindset perspective, or just a life perspective, do I want to be the same person I was 6 weeks ago, 3 months ago, last year? I should want to be a better me somehow. Maybe that's as simple as I want to weigh less than I do, or I want to have more. I want to have more of whatever it is I want, right?
Yeah.
Or I want to be a better salesman, or I want to be a better leader. Whatever it is we want to improve, we should want to be a better version of ourselves than we were yesterday,
Yeah.
even.
And I
Right?
I developed this simple exercise that I used to give to my students and implement this with my clients when we
Yeah.
do employee motivation and I
Mm.
said, listen, assuming you brush your teeth at least twice a day, one before you go to bed. So when you're in the bathroom with your toothbrush, it's you and you. Ask two simple questions. Just two. I like simplicity.
Yeah.
One, have I been productive today?
Mm.
And two, which is actually the more important one, have I made a difference in someone else's life? And it doesn't have to be a lofty goal of, well, I changed someone. No, sometimes it's as simple as giving somebody a hug or saying thank you or holding the door. Just something that impacts someone else. And if the answer is I've been productive and I made an impact on somebody, great. Put a big smile on your face, go to sleep, have a good night.
Exactly.
If
Yeah.
you didn't, at least commit to doing something different tomorrow and then maybe even write it down and then maybe stick to it so that tomorrow night when you do the same thing, say, actually put those two questions on the mirror and
Yeah.
just
Write
keep
it
looking.
down. You
Write
just
it down.
stick it up there. Yeah.
Stick it there. Now, your wife might think you're crazy, but it's okay. Say, look, I'm going to say, Dr. John told me to do it. Don't not say it because
There,
I'm,
there we go. There we go. I
so,
have a similar thing I do at night before I go to bed is looking back over the day, and I'll even get my body involved. Like I will release, right? I let go of my hands. I release the one, two, three things from the day that I need to let go of. The frustration I faced in traffic, or the feeling I had toward a coworker who I thought messed up, whatever it is. But I release it. I let go of it. I let go of this today, and then I say I forgive myself for, and I take ownership. Right? It's 99% the other person's problem, but I did that 1%. Right? There's always 1% that's at least me. Right? But take responsibility for my actions and what I've done in situations. So I forgive myself for one, two, three things, and then lastly, I am grateful for. Right? What worked today? What was good about today? And I found in that releasing and then receiving in of gratitude, because if I can release, it means I've got empty hands. Right? And if I have empty hands, then I can receive the gratefulness, the thankfulness
wow,
each evening.
that's incredible. But as you were talking, I'm thinking about my business on the entrepreneurs that listen to this, the business
Mm-hmm.
owners. There's something about that breed of people who own businesses that's unique, and that's I'm not going to call them egomaniacs because that's a bad word, but
Mm.
they're very, very, very driven,
Yeah,
and ego is a big thing. They're very
sure.
proud. They're rightfully proud because they took a risk and
Yeah,
they're living proof. And I'm sure you've dealt with people like them in your
sure have.
practice. How do you get somebody who is type A? It's them, no matter what I try to, I give them more money. They wanted an extra and I give it. Stop for a minute, okay? I love you, what you just said. Okay, Mr. Business Owner, release,
Yeah.
release. How do you help them?
I try to find out what really is going on because whatever it is they're ranting about and they're upset about was something immediate, right? We make our decisions almost exclusively over what just happened today or yesterday or the last week. That's where we form our decisions, is over what just happened. And so, what I like to say is, okay, it sounds like you're upset about this situation. What happened right before that? What happened the morning that you had that disastrous board meeting with your employees? What went on before you got to work? And it could have been something simple that the dog peed on the floor and their spouse forgot this and it made them late. And so that just snowballs into the day to where they make this big blow up thing happen in their business. And then they get all upset about it because the days was failure and everything's lost and
Yeah.
on and on. Is what happened right before that. And what I am doing when I ask them for that question is to get them out of that moment, get their brain from continuing to fire on that one specific scenario and situation, and take it before that. And by getting them out of that specific little time zone into what happened prior, it steps them back a bit, excuse me, and gives them perspective. And if I can help them get the perspective, more often than not, and most entrepreneurs, right, they're smart, they're independent thinkers, or they wouldn't be entrepreneurs. They're smart enough to figure out, oh, that's what it was. It really wasn't
Yeah.
about the problem A, it was about scenario B that was before it, right? So I try to give them perspective. And sometimes that takes a bit because they're wired up, they're dialed up, they're wound up. Well, one, take a pause for a second, take a breath. Okay. What happened earlier in the day? What happened earlier this week? Whatever it may be. And generally, a shift of perspective will help them get to the solution all on their own, which is really as it should be anyway.
Yeah, and we used to tell corporate all employees, and through my coaching, guide business owners to communicate to employees what are the boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about HR rules. I'm not just general accepted boundaries that you want as a business owner within your company, and you need to be a role model, right? So if you want people to be, I've worked for people that says, I have an open door policy. Yeah, anytime you got something, come back in. Well, first of all, the door was never open, and secondly,
Right.
when you went in and you brought up a problem, it immediately turned into an accusation, right? It's your
Yeah.
fault, right?
Yeah.
So we'll dismiss those people, but we also tell to people like, hey, here's the boundaries, and one of those principles was everyone is entitled to a bad day,
Yeah.
okay,
For
right?
sure. For
But
sure.
what you're not entitled to is bring your bad day to work because your coworkers didn't have nothing to do with it. So if you had a horrible night and you fought with your husband or wife and you didn't sleep all night and you couldn't wait to get out of there and you are so mad,
Mm-hmm.
if you can come to work and function and respect people around you, you're not taking this on anybody else. But it also applies to the owners. The owners can get away with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that one of the company I spent most of my career, third generation family, when the old man used to go on a cruise for a week, we knew that his first day back from vacation would be hell because he missed the addiction of the action on a daily basis and finding
Mm-hmm.
mistakes and sitting on a cruise. What is he going to do? Right? Complain about the food, but that was it. But he's just he's just a tourist, whatever. But then
Yeah.
he came in bundled up, and we knew, oh boy, this is going to be the first day. Walter's coming in. All hell's going to break loose. He's going to nitpick and he's going to yell and he's going to do this. So it's okay. Just say, okay, Walter. So we all were prepared for it. We laughed about it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I kind of ask you, kind of end it because it's a business podcast.
Yeah.
Can you think of without obviously violating your Hippocratic oath or HIPAA paperwork
Yeah.
that you sign with your clients. But can you think of a business owner that came to you with a really, really profound problem and how you were able to help? I mean, I know
Hmm.
I'm kind of setting you up for 25 years.
Yeah. No.
You use your AI brain to quickly filter through it and spit out an answer.
Yeah.
Uh,
No. That's fine. There was a business owner. He owned his own business, small business. He had about 3 or 4 employees, right? And one of his key employees was the business, right? People would say all the time, "She's the reason why I do business with you," right? I mean, he's the owner, he's the name on the sign and all that kind of thing. But she was the lifeblood of his company, of his business, and he knew that. He had enough knowledge and self awareness that he didn't make it all about himself. He knew to promote her, give her whatever she needed to be successful because she was driving the business.
mm.
Well, when the business changed hands, she was not treated well. They basically said, "Thank you very much," and you're gone.
So he was acquired.
He was acquired,
Huh.
yes, and it wasn't handled well. And he's sitting there going, "I don't know what happened." So after I took a deep breath to say, "How could you miss this? How blind can you really be?" I didn't say that. Said it up here, didn't say it out here, right? I said, "Well, who was the person who was most responsible for the success of your business?" And he said the person's name immediately. I said, "Okay." So without her, your business wouldn't have grown to the point where you could have sold it anyway, right? Yeah, 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 exactly. Okay. How did you handle her when this business changed hands? And he went silent because he knew he had overlooked her. In his quest to get bought out and to do other things with his time, right? If he got this buyout, he was going to go do this and that. He forgot who got him there, right? And he can't undo it. I mean, it's a done deal. He can't undo the damage that he's done, but he did grow in his understanding that he put himself above the person who got him to where he is. And that'll work in business and that'll work in your family.
And the example you just gave, not quite what we went through, but the company I spent 15 years, half my career with,
Mm,
we've grown from under 3 to 15 million, got acquired. The owner who got $24 million plus another 6 million for 2 buildings just literally walked away, right?
yeah, yeah.
Walked away. And it was interesting that the acquiring CEO, who was brilliant,
Mm,
I was in my office one day and my phone rings and the person on the other side says, "My name is Peter. You don't know me. My car's outside. Can you come out? I want to take you to lunch." And I said, I don't know who you are." So my employer walked by and he said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Some guy Peter." Said, "You should go." So okay, I have no idea what this is about. So we
oh, yeah.
go, and long story short, he says, "Listen, I'm the CEO of such and such company. By the way, we just bought your company." And we did 3 months due diligence literally around the world because we had offices in Germany. And the
Mm,
only name we heard was Zev. And I just want you to know, I wanted to meet you because in acquisition, the key employees usually bail out because they're afraid you're going to get there's duplicated responsibilities. You're going to get tossed out. And I said, I want you to know your job is secure. So when we come back, we're going to let everybody know we bought the company. But I just want you to know, right? Said, okay, well, I appreciate it.
okay.
And they were really great. And then he turned around and looked at me because we were talking about moving people from New York to Rhode Island because there were too many. There was no point having another office. And he said, "Who's your best employee?" He didn't ask me.
Mm,
He didn't ask the owner. He asked me. And I said, "Daryl." And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yep." So I said, "Why?" And I said, "Well, Daryl used to work for us many years ago
mm,
in our mailing department. And then after about a year, and he was a phenomenal employee, he disappeared. Nobody knew what happened to him. A couple years later, he resurfaced and reached out to me, actually to my friend Eli, who called me, and he said uh, he was arrested on
mm.
drug possession,
Okay.
cross-state drug possession, and he was sent. And he was 22 years old. He was sent to jail for 8 years in federal because it was cross-state something. and he was coming up on parole. And he said, I really need a job. That's part of my parole.
Okay.
So I went to my employer and I said, well, we found Daryl. This is what happened. I want to bring him back. And he said, absolutely not. He's a criminal. He did this. I said,
Right.
no,
Right.
he's still Daryl. Okay. He did
Rough.
something stupid.
Exactly.
Okay. He did something stupid. He paid for it.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think it's our responsibility as people in general to help him rehabilitate his life. It's a big deal to get a job when you get paroled.
It
Uh,
is. Yeah.
and so he was out, and then I brought him in, and my employer was still very nervous. He was nervous that people would find out why they went to jail and the implications. I said, and I didn't have an opening for him. So I wind up actually letting go of someone to give him an opportunity to come in.
Okay.
I knew how I was going to get my employer to say yes. I said, I will pay him the absolute lowest salary. I'm going to let go of somebody who's making 40,000 and we're
Yeah.
going to pay him 20. And I said, really? And I said, yeah. So you're saving money, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Make it work for them. Sure.
and Dal came back. He took 3 buses to come to work, was never late,
Mm-hmm.
did 4 different jobs, was committed. Everybody loved him.
Mm-hmm.
Slowly moved up from the 20,000, got up to almost 55. And then we get acquired, and I said to our new CEO, this is the best guy, but I got to tell you his history. I said he was arrested, and he said, was that I forgot, we asked me if it was that a homicide or anything? And I said, no, it was stupid drug possession thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this man is amazing. So, you know what? Recognized him when the relocation took place. They moved him to Rhode Island with a bunch of other people that I indicated. Became the head of customer service. So, to your story, and I think the lesson is again for business owners who listen to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get to where you got by yourself. You shouldn't wait for an acquisition to reward the employees that got you there. You should do this all the time. That's the secret. I was on podcast with Zach Abbott, who is a young, brilliant microbiologist with a new genetics company. And we talked about this. I know his approach to the business and dealing with employees. And I said to him, that's the one thing that got me, that I wanted you to be on my show, because you're a young guy and you're smart enough to recognize that if you want your employees to have accountability, to come to work because they want to make a difference, to feel that they own the company, you need to literally share the wealth. You can't just play the carrot Christmas bonus nonsense, right? It doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And if you do that, you really will be unstoppable. I think we're ending with humility on one hand, and also don't take anyone that's working for you for granted.
Exactly.
Maybe if I do a closed loop, we'll go back to forget the business, generally about life. Don't take life for granted. If you are spiritual, great. If you believe in God, great. If you believe in nothing, if that helps you be a better person, that's fine too, right?
Yeah. Generally, being a good human is going to be good for you in life, relationships, and business. Just be a good human.
Okay.
Right?
Well, John, I will text you my address for my certificate of whatever you want to call me.
I'm going to have to go find my gold foil so I can stamp it with a real official.
Yeah, please.
Real official
and
stamp.
I promise you, I'm going to frame it and I say, John gave me that. So that's proof. All right, John, this was as fun as I know it will be. Thank you so much. And I will include in my show notes how to get in touch with you. This dude is a brilliant copywriter, and he's a really, really cool human being that we can all learn from. So thank you so much for being.
I appreciate it, Zev. This was a great pleasure. And this, by the way, Zev, you have the honor, and I have the honor. This was the first podcast I've ever done. Was with you. You are the number one guy. That's it.
So, no, I'm not going to be the number one guy. I launched you into the universe, and hopefully people will discover you, because this type of conversation we had, even though some people will just, get the heebie-jeebies about the God, the Jesus thing, get over yourself. There's something powerful about what we discuss, which is not necessarily religion.
No, not
But
really.
the power, and really the byproduct of this whole concept is an inward look at yourself and your ability to change and improve and be a better person.
Exactly. Good ending. That's a good ending,
Okay,
Zeb. Thanks.
I'm available for guest appearances at your church whenever you want me to.
All right.
All right, thanks, John.
Thanks, Zeb. Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye bye.